The theme for Centers of Spiritual Living Worldwide this month is Divine Discomfort. And this week's subject is Where Comfort Ends, Transformation Begins. We are pleased to have Reverend Dr. Jerry Troyer as our guest speaker today, and his topic is Divine Discontent. Will I be my Valentine? Reverend Jerry comes to us from La Mesa, California, near San Diego, which happens to be where my mother grew up. And we went there many summers as I was growing up. So it's a place that is very near and dear to my heart. A New Thought religious science minister since 2007. He is the board president of the affiliated New Thought Network, a membership organization of New Thought centers and churches, including Unity, CSL, Divine Science, and several independents as well as individuals. Jerry is a founding board member and currently the director of relationship development for Urban Street Angels, an organization in San Diego that works to end youth homelessness by providing housing, employment, and life skills training to homeless youth between the ages of 18 and 24, which is an amazing thing to give to those young people. He is the author of the acclaimed book, Coming Out to Ourselves, Admitting, Accepting, and Embracing Who We Are. So you can look that up after the service. In addition, Reverend Jerry is a guest speaker at CSL, religious science, and unity centers and churches around the country. He offers workshops on grief and loss, on the process of forgiveness, on money and finances, and a new one that is entitled Radically Content, Being, Doing, and Having Enough. In La Mesa, Jerry lives with his friend, an English cream golden retriever, get that right, named Maggie. His son and family, including 7 grandchildren, live near Eugene, Oregon. It is my pleasure to welcome you, Jerry, Reverend Dr. Jerry Troyer.
Thanks so much, Lee, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, and welcome. It is my great honor and privilege to be with you today. My thanks to my beloved friend, Reverend Dr. John Karn, who made the introduction, and to Judy and Maya for your kindness and hand-holding and so forth to allow this morning to happen. So as Lee mentioned, my topic for today is Divine Discontent. Will I be my Valentine? If you're in a romantic relationship, just a gentle reminder that Wednesday is the day. So after this, you need to be out buying your cards and candy and diamonds and cars and whatever else is appropriate for you to honor and celebrate your beloved. My question for us, though, is as we're doing that, how are we treating ourselves as our own Valentine as well? Some wise person, not me, said, love is not what you say, love is what you do. So what do we do for others? But equally as important, what do we do and how do we treat and how do we live with ourselves? So that's going to be my topic for this morning. We're going to talk about, wait for it, change, which we love to do, right? I know that I certainly do. And sometimes even if things aren't working as well as I'd like for them to, actually changing it can be scary. So we'll talk about all of that this morning. Can we say, yes, I want to do that? It's completely different from what I've ever done. Can we say, no, I've done this, I've had this, I've believed this for however many years or decades or centuries, and I'm complete? Do we allow ourselves to honor ourselves, stand in our integrity, and say yes, and say no? We want to be warm and fuzzy. We want to be comfortable. It's been raining in San Diego the last week or so, which is completely out of character for us because it's supposed to be, if you're familiar with weather in San Diego, you know it's supposed to be warm and sunny and 70 degrees year round. but it isn't always. And so we've had rain for the last week or so, and I've been complaining to anyone who will listen because it's inconvenient, and I have to take the aforementioned dog out and go through that. And if you have pets, and if you have dogs, and especially large furry dogs, that you got to do what you got to do, and it's inconvenient. So we want to be warm and fuzzy and comfortable, but in this thing called life, sometimes an area of our lives or a situation or a relationship starts to not be so warm and cozy and comfortable. And the still small voice, that divine discontent, starts to speak to us, normally quietly, then a little less quietly, and then a lot less quietly, and we get the tap on the shoulder that this isn't working, or this is not what I came here to do, which gives us the opportunity to make a change. So again, for Wednesday, as we're taking care of one another, are we also honoring and celebrating and taking care of ourselves? I don't know about you, but I have a comfort zone. So I'm comfortable doing that, being here, going here, and those things that I'm normally used to, and I'm comfortable, and it's okay. But sometimes that produces a little stagnation and a little bit of been there, done that. And do we ever have just that in the back of our minds? Wouldn't it be fun to go here or do this? Wouldn't it be fun to stir the pot, as it were? Or wouldn't it be really fun to get rid of that or stop doing that? That's the divine discontent. That's that loving, nurturing voice within us that says, yeah, but what about something different? What about something fun? Do you do New Year's resolutions? I used to. And what I found was the list kind of looked like a carbon copy of the previous year and the previous year. I use that expression sometimes, and a lot of times people look at me like, well, what's a carbon copy? And if you know what a carbon copy is, I honor and celebrate you. If you don't know what a carbon copy is, I love and celebrate you as well, and go look it up. But it's an old technology, if you want to call it that, where we made a copy of whatever the document was. And so 2 years ago's New Year's resolutions might look like last year's, which looks like this year's, which looks like next year's. And if that's your situation, as it was mine, I invite you to look at that list and decide, is that really yours to do, or are you ready to move on? By stepping outside our comfort zone, we open ourselves up to new, amazing, wonderful experiences. A wise person, again, not me, once said, don't let your good get in the way of your better. So if it's okay, if the job's okay, if the relationship's okay, if the situation is okay, that's okay. But are we ready for something better, something greater? It might be being or having something new. It might also be about stopping doing, being, or having something. There's a great book, A Clutter Busting by Brooks Palmer, and he talks about clutter being not only the stuff in the storage room, not only the stuff in the garage, not only the stuff under the bed, but any relationship, any belief, any material possessions that no longer serve us. They become clutter. We look at them and start to feel that divine discontent just a little, and begin to allow ourselves to think about the possibility that maybe we could change and release whatever that is. Now, back in the day, and this was 30 or so years ago, I worked for a technology company, and we were privately owned, and it was wonderful. And the owners were incredibly generous. We had parties at every possible opportunity. I mean, we did Valentine's Day, St. Patrick's Day, pretty much everything. The benefits were wonderful. And then the family decided to sell. And they did a camp, and there was a lot of fear, because what happens, and if you've been through this situation, you know there's fear involved in what's going to happen now, and will the benefits go away, and what will be the culture and all of that. And so they created what probably was a couple of semi trucks full of buttons that said change is good. And the senior management would walk around and thankfully would talk with people and remind them that change is good. Yeah. And another wise person once said, change is good, you start. Interesting. Change, again, even if we're changing for something better, even if we're changing for something that we really want, changing anything can be a little disconcerting. So why do we fear? We fear sometimes because I don't know what to do. Do you ever have that? This is a great, okay, Spirit, this is a great idea. It makes perfect sense to me, but I don't know how to do it. And so sometimes we stay feeling that divine discontent because we're not sure how to take the next step. But what I know is this still small voice that provides us with this divine discontent always tells us. When I did my practitioner studies, I borrowed an affirmation that says, I always know what I need to know when I need to know it. That has absolutely been my experience. And so what I know for all of us is when we listen and act on the intuitive ideas, when we act and act on this divine discontent, we get those intuitive ideas. And when we act on them, they move us to the next level. Never done that before, have no idea how to do that. But I know that somehow, some way, I'll be divinely guided and be allowed to take the next step. Someone said, fear stands for false evidence appearing real. Change can be scary and can be fearful, but we didn't come here to stay stuck in whatever it is if it doesn't make our hearts sing and our tails wag. That's not what we came here to do. We came here to express and experience all the good that life has for us, but something has to change very often. So I love Facebook. I'm not a stockholder. I have no emotional attachment or financial attachment, but I found this book. And it's one of my favorites. The title is Radically Content, Being Satisfied in an Endlessly Dissatisfied World. And as Lee mentioned, I created a workshop based on this book because it so touched my heart. And in the book, the author, Jamie Veron, talks about a question that, I don't know about you, but it has affected my life for many, many years and decades. And the question is, what will they think? Do you ever do that? I would like to find a new job. I'd like to get a new relationship. I'd like to get rid of this Peloton. Did you do that during the COVID? Did you get the exercise machine that just was so wonderful and you were so excited, and now it's spending its time holding your blankets or your clean clothes in your bedroom or your spare bedroom? Yeah, I did that and then lovingly released that, but that's a separate story. But what will they think if I dot, dot, dot. What will they think if I quit, dot, dot, dot. But listen to these words from this amazing book. What will they think is the question that robs us of our dreams and happiness more than any other. Who is they, and why do we care so much about what they think? Who is this faceless group of people that's going to come for us if we don't measure up to their ideal? And why are we not encouraged to examine this idea we take as an absolute incontrovertible truth? We do not need to spend our life in pursuit of achievements that have no real value to us internally. The goal is to be the most expressed version of yourself. You should feel free to jump in the pool with your bathing suit on or off, my words, not hers, to wear sleeveless dresses, to love with abandon, to create the art that lights you up, to construct and build an entire life that is so you, there's no room for comparison. You deserve to love your life so much that it doesn't matter who affirms or denies you. Again, Radically Content by Jamie Varon. Absolutely amazing book. How often do we base our future plans on our worries about what someone else will think? How often do we have combat between the divine discontent and the yes, but what will they think? An interesting question. I invite you to consider that. So sometimes it's the fear. Sometimes it's the fear of not knowing how to do it. About 2 years ago, I really wanted a Tesla. No idea. How does this work? How do you charge it? How do you do it? I don't know. But I wanted a Tesla. Completely out of character for me because I tended to be a little safer and a little more, within my lane, that had no idea how to do that. Little bit of fear that, oh God, am I gonna catch it on fire? Am I gonna blow it up? What am I gonna do? And this still small voice said, okay, then let's do this. And it was the most amazing experience because the good news is they are, and this is an unkind expression, but go with me on this, they are idiot proof. So no, chances are you can't catch it on fire. You're not going to do something goofy. It reminds you about 19 times when you need to recharge the battery. You're going to be fine. So to make a long story even longer, in my garage downstairs is my Tesla. And it's just the coolest thing. And the charger plugs into the dryer plug. And so now it's a splitter. And so there's one plug for the Tesla charger and one plug for the dryer. And when you start to charge the Tesla, the dryer automatically shuts off so you don't overload anything. Because it's the 210 or 240 or whatever, the more juice. My relatives in Kentucky call electricity juice. And so it's the more juice. But it can only go based on the wattage, I think is the word in your house. It can only do a certain amount of juice. And so when I first tried to charge it, it kept tripping. So I called the company that installed the adapter and had them come out because it's not working because it keeps tripping it. And the electrician, who was very kind and very patient, said, see, on the box there, it says the maximum is 24 watts. So you need to, or amps or whatever it is. So you need to adjust that. And you can do that on the car when you go to charge it, that it's 24 amps, not 48. I was embarrassed. Read the box, read the label, Jerry. Sometimes we don't make that change. We don't go out on the limb. We don't step into that greater good because we're fearful that we're going to look foolish, that we're going to do something wrong. Yeah. Just read the label, Jerry. Okay, thanks so much. Didn't charge me for the service call. It wasn't a thing. Because we all have done this. The truth is, we human beings have all been in a position at one point or another when we didn't know what to do, and maybe we made a mess, and maybe it was perfect. But the truth is, it was perfect because we learned from whatever it was. So releasing that fear of failure. And then the opportunity for us is to embrace our victories, the small ones as well as the big ones, knowing that that's how life works. No, I'm not going to make this change necessarily today, entirely today, and get to the goal. But another wise person, not me, once said that the way you eat an elephant is one bite at a time. So I'm not going to get this whole thing done today, but I can take the first step. I can ask for help. Remember in the Beatitudes, Jesus said, ask, seek, and knock. Do we allow ourselves to do that? Do we allow ourselves to say, Spirit, I don't know, but I am called to do this, and I absolutely know that when I need to know, I will be shown what I need. Do we allow ourselves? Are we comfortable enough to step out and do that? It's like going to the gym and exercising a muscle, I believe, because the more we step out, the more we act on that divine discontent, we're shown what we need to do. And wow, well, if I did that, then maybe I can do this. And if I did this, maybe I can do this. The truth is, we don't have to do anything different. We are already the essence, expression, and experience of spirit. There's nothing to change to be acceptable. There's nothing to change to be better. We can absolutely be radically content with exactly who we are and where we are. But if there's an area of our lives that doesn't work, or we'd like for it to work better, if there's a story that we keep telling that we're ready to lovingly release because we're just sick to death of it, there's always the opportunity to do that. And we're always supported in making that change. Ernest Holmes, in the book Creative Mind and Success, says, if it is the Father's good pleasure to give us the kingdom, it should be our good pleasure to accept it. There's no limitation except the ones we believe. There's no limitation. So wouldn't we rather, now, many of you are in Atlanta, with all due respect, I'm not making fun, but do we live our lives like we're in the back of coach on Delta in the middle row that doesn't recline? Or do we live our lives like we've been upgraded to first class? Because as we know, the universe always says yes. And if you want to do first class, that's absolutely fine. And if you want to do coach in the back of the plane in a middle seat, that's absolutely fine. But if given the choice, wouldn't we rather make those changes and live this luscious, amazing, ridiculous life? Now, everything I've talked about up until now requires change. And change requires courage. But listen to these words. My other favorite book is Forgiveness and Other Acts of Love by Stephanie Dowrick. And she writes about this experience of courage. And it's a little bit of a long quote, but bear with me if you would. Courage is more than voyaging. It is voyaging and reflecting. It is an engagement with the complexity of life through the body, the powers of the intellect, and what some would call heart or soul. I don't want to do this, but I choose to. I will go with this even though it is hard. I will face this with my eyes open. I am ready to move on. In the presence of courage, it becomes possible to take fear out of its hiding place, look deeply into it, ask what it wants, how it thinks it is saving you, how you could learn what it wants to teach you without feeling driven by anxiety to attack, blame, or self-justify, or to flee from your own life into the dubious safety of someone else's authority. Do we live our lives based on someone else's authority? Or do we listen to that still small voice, to that divine discontent, and recognize we didn't come here to settle? We didn't come here to schlep. I love that Yiddish word. We came here to express and experience all the good that life has for us. We came here to be our own Valentines. And we do that by standing in our integrity, saying yes, saying no when we mean it, and making those changes that are appropriate for us. Because we're only here for 100, ideally, perhaps 110 or 120 years. You want to frolic. You want to have an amazing life, and it's possible for us, but we need to make those changes. And maybe it's just a belief. If money and finances and financial abundance are an issue, what do we believe about our money? If we're of a certain age, do we talk about our fixed income? And if we do, I invite us, myself included, to go and brush our teeth. My beloved friend Edwene Gaines would say, if you're on a fixed income, who fixed it? Because the universe is abundant, and we can and should, and I don't like this word, but we should be as well. And the opportunity for us is there as we change our belief about our money and what it is and where it comes from and our deservedness. So changing our beliefs, changing our stories. What do we talk about all day? What do we believe about other people and about ourselves and about life and about money and about our health and all those other things? And our fears. And again, including, I just really want to do this, but what will they think? It doesn't matter. What matters is what we're divinely guided to do and what our divine discontent is telling us. Quoting, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, but I just absolutely love this quote from Anais Nin. And the day came when the risk to remain tight in a bud was more painful than the risk it took to blossom. In your heart of hearts, what are you ready to release? What are you ready to embrace? What are you ready to experience that on December 31st, you'll look back and say, this was the best year of my life? Because this loving, nurturing presence that we call God, Spirit, the universe, the infinite, the divine, always says yes, yes. So whatever it is, it's possible for us. Because if nothing changes, nothing changes. So with that in mind, join me in the light for just a minute. So we stay in this consciousness of oneness and offer great gratitude for this glorious day and for the opportunity to be together thanks to this technology that we call the internet and StreamYard and Zoom and various other things. We give thanks for this teaching and the opportunity to be reminded of the truth of our being, that life loves us, nurtures us, always guides us, and always says yes. And so moving forward today, we allow ourselves to express and experience all that good that life has for us, to honestly feel the divine discontent and decide if this situation, if this belief, if this story is still true for us, or if we're ready to change it. Because we're always loved, we're always supported, we're always told what we need to know. So as we move forward into this week especially being reminded of this experience of love, we allow ourselves to love our dear ones and also ourselves. For this day, for this time together, for this beloved spiritual community, we give great thanks. And together we say, and so it is.